Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to talk about all the books I read in the second half of September. So once again, welcome or welcome back. I am so glad you're here and you decided to click on this video. So like I said, today I'm going to talk about all the books I read in the second half of September. I will link above my video of everything from the first half of September. So I apologize in advance if this video is a little bit all over the place. I've been dealing with some personal stuff and I feel like books, while I enjoy reading them, they've been like going in my head and then out my head as soon as I'm done reading them. So my synopses and opinions may be a little all over the place, but I hope you bear with me because there's some really good books that even if I can't exactly remember why I loved them, I still want to talk about them with you. So with that said, let's get into the video. So the first book that I read in the second part of September is The River We Remember by William Kent Kruger. This is my first book that I have read from this author and I absolutely loved this book. I was a little iffy on edge if I was going to love it just because it's like historical fiction. It's kind of like country people historical fiction, if that makes sense. And it's just not necessarily something I like reading about, like very rural areas in the past. But I thought this was absolutely amazing. The main character in this is a man named Brody Dern. He is the sheriff of the small town of Jewell, Minnesota in 1958. And on Memorial Day, when everyone is gathered together, he gets word that this man's body was found in the Alabaster River, which runs right through the city and the town and is just like, you know, a big part of their town's culture. And the man that was found is a man that is very disliked in town. He's the kind of guy that everyone's afraid of. No one really likes him, but they act like they're all, you know, buddy boys type thing. So that is the kind of the premise. The main character Brody is a man who's come back from war and he's got a lot of demons. And so basically this follows him trying to figure out who killed Jimmy, the guy nobody likes. Rumors start circulating, as that happens in a small town, that the killer is Noah Bluestone, who's also a World War II vet and came back with a Japanese wife. There are a lot of like kind of intertwining stories going on like with the people in this small town, but it's definitely the kind of book that, at least for me personally, I drag my feet on reading and I'm like, I don't know, like it just doesn't sound like me. And then I get sucked into this small town, this world, and then I like can't stop and I just want to ignore all my responsibilities so I can read it. And that was definitely the case with this one. It was so beautifully written and there was a lot of indirect talk about grief, I suppose, grieving relationships, grieving people, and feeling complicated about it. I don't know, it just kind of struck me in this time like just something, I don't know, I kind of needed. And it was a great story and the storytelling was beautiful, the writing was beautiful, and I really hope and plan to make this an author I read more from. If I didn't say it, that is a 5-star read for me. So the next book I read was Everything's Still There by Kaylin Fogarty. This follows a woman named Bryn who is postpartum from her son Cody. He is just a little baby and she's having kind of a lot of trouble with motherhood and kind of getting the hang of things, I should say, and feeling bonded to her baby and getting him to stop crying. And I don't know, I feel like I've read like several books with a similar premise this year, which is kind of weird. But anyways, she lives near this lighthouse and she starts seeing it go off. So she's taking these walks and she ends up meeting her neighbor named Joy, and she is, I think, in her 80s. They just kind of strike up this unlikely friendship, and Joy is always talking about her husband and her adult children who like don't come to see her as much. And it's just kind of like a sweet story where they become friends, and there are a few twists along the way. Although I will say probably the biggest like twist, so to speak, is I still am not sure if it was like meant to be a twist, because I personally think that it's pretty obvious from early on in the book that like this is a thing. I know I'm so good at descriptions, but it's kind of revealed later as like a big twist. So I don't know, maybe I just read too many books in this like similar sort of thing and I figured it out too quickly, but I don't know. That is it was a really nice story. It was really sweet. I did feel like the relationship between Brynn and her husband was kind of weird. It felt like they really didn't know much about the other one. I don't know. I just feel like that could have been a little more polished. But as a whole, I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was sweet. So, and it's pretty quick. So if you just need like a little something to read on a given day, this would be a good one. Next, I read Yours for the Taking by Gabrielle Korn. This was kind of like a queer sci-fi dystopian sort of book. I really did like it. I gave it 4 stars. It's set in the near future in 2050 where the world is burning basically. And if you are rich, you can get on this spaceship basically to go live in outer space. So you're saved. But if you're not, you can enter into this program that is creating all of these buildings. Buildings is a weird thing to say, but like habitats around the world. There's like several of them on different continents where you can go and like that will be your life because that's the end. But what it ends up being is the one in New York City, which is the only one in the United States, is more of like I don't want to give anything away, and I don't know if this would be giving it away. There's this reclusive sort of billionaire woman who kind of takes charge of it, and she's very like #lady boss moment, and so she basically has this idea that she's going to like get rid of the male population and start anew because men are the ones that have been in charge thus far and made things the way they are. So that's kind of like a background. Obviously, things don't maybe go quite as planned, but I thought this was a really creative story. I don't know, an interesting concept, something I don't think that I've ever read anything like it before. And I don't know, like, I don't really like sci-fi, but I love dystopian. So this one worked really well for me. This was 4 stars. I think I already said that, but here I'm saying it again. This doesn't come out till December, but I highly recommend looking into it if this sounds at all interesting to you. There's a lot of like nuance, and I've talked about this book on my channel before, so maybe this sounds a little familiar. But I definitely recommend checking it out because I really enjoyed it, and I think it will be definitely something different than a lot of people have read before. Next, I read Death in Her Hands by Ottessa Moshfegh. Oh boy. So this is my first book by this author. I follow several YouTubers who absolutely love her books. So I was very excited to give this one a try. It follows this woman who is old, and she basically stumbles upon this note when she's walking her dog that says like, her name is Magda. Her name is Magda. She's dead, like I didn't kill her, a couple other like weird little cryptic lines, and she just becomes obsessed with it because there's no body there, and she becomes obsessed with it, and she makes up this whole like backstory in her head and like different characters, and like it's all kind of in her head, and then you know she like meets these people in real life and she kind of like assigns them to the characters she made up in her head, and I was just like, I didn't understand it. I think something was lost on me. I don't know. I just don't know if this is the book for me. I'm certainly not going to write this author off. My sister, when I told her I was reading this, she recommended that I read My Year of Rest and Relaxation. So I might give that one a shot just, you know, before I close the door on this author, because this was just, I just don't think I got it. And maybe there's nothing to get and I'm thinking too hard about it, but I don't know. I did find myself to be kind of bored and it just like wasn't the book for me. I will say this part though. The old woman in the book, she starts making a list of different like characters in her head who are part of Magda's story. And she says one of them has to be like a ghosty supernatural character. So she starts to write down ghoul but the way she writes it, it looks like Goad, G-H-O-D, and I don't know, and so she just goes with it because she's like, oh, it's kind of like God, so that's definitely like the supernatural character. And I don't know why, but every single time I read it, I would like giggle. Like, I don't know why. And then later in the book, she kind of assigns that character to a police officer, and she's just like, I don't know, but Goad pulled me over. And I don't know why that was so funny to me. I just keep laughing about it. Anyways, that's really stupid, and I'm sorry I made you listen to me, but that was probably the highlight of this book for me. I gave this 2 stars. I don't know. The next book that I read was Such Sharp Teeth by Rachel Harrison. Obsessed. I gave this 5 stars. This I just did on a reading vlog when I was traveling to Olympic National Park. I will link the video up here. I don't know. Vlogs can be hit or miss, I guess, with views, but if you want to see my full opinions on it, check that video out. So this is a werewolf book about this woman who has moved back from Manhattan to her hometown. I think it's in like somewhere in New York State, and she is moving back because her sister is pregnant and her sister's boyfriend has just left her. So she's there to take care of her twin sister because she needs help. And one of her first nights there, she ends up hitting something with her car, and when she gets out to see what's going on, gets attacked. And so what do you know? She turns out to have become a werewolf. And the story goes from there. There is also like an ex-boyfriend kind of second chance romance situation going on. I just loved this. This was so much fun. It was so sweet. It's like, I guess it's horror because like, it's sort of cozy horror. Like I mentioned that in my last video. Let's just go with that. It's like a love story. And yes, there's like some scenes that are kind of frightening, but overall it's just really a sweet book and I really loved it. This is definitely my favorite of the Rachel Harrison books I've read so far, and I will keep you updated on how I feel if that remains when I read her other books. But this was brilliant. I loved it. Next, I read Psycho by Robert Bloch. This can also be found in that same vlog. This was so good. I am a huge, huge fan of the film version. That is like one of my top favorite movies of all time. So I was really excited to read the book version, and like, yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. There were some very minor things that were changed for the movie, but overall it was pretty true to the source material. So not a whole lot to say about that other than it got 5 stars for me, and if you are a fan of the movie, definitely check out the book. Granted, it is not really that different, so you know, maybe you're fine with just movie and done. But if you don't know the big twist, this will be a really, really cool read. I don't really know how someone that's interested in horror anyway could have gotten to 2023 without knowing the big twist, but hey, if you haven't, check it out. It's awesome. Next, I read The Burnout by Sophie Kinsella. She is like my happy place author. I have read not all of her books, but I say I've read probably at least 3/4 of them. She just writes happy, funny fiction that just like it makes me happy. It's like, I guess you could say it's romance, but it's like definitely never the main point of the story. The romance is kind of the B plot. So I really enjoy that about her books. So this one follows a woman who is just so fed up with her job. She ends up making a huge scene at work and quitting and trying to initially join a convent, which is hilarious because like she's just like, I just want to be where there's nothing around, and so yeah, they don't want her there. But she ends up taking time away to go on like a little sabbatical. She goes to this resort she used to go to as a child with her family in the summertime, and it's kind of gone to ruin. And so she's like a little bit startled when she first arrives because this is just not how she remembered the place. And it's like there's no other guests there, and it's just all kind of run down. It ends up that the only other person staying at the hotel is this grumpy hot guy that like they truly do not get along until they are kind of forced to get along, and they kind of found some common ground. They're both burnt out, and secondly, they both used to go to this same resort as kids and loved surfing, and so they talk about the surf instructor who used to teach there and all this. Then, you know what? That's enough. That's enough. That's enough of the plot summary. It's a really good book. It was really funny. It was cute. Light reading. I gave it 4 stars, and I mean, I don't think it's like a favorite Sophie Kinsella, but it's definitely one that I enjoyed. It was really good. And the last book that I read in September is The Field of Wrongdoing by Lily St. Germain. Another one, same video, just go watch that. But, so I won't say that I disliked this. I don't feel like I'm the right audience because it was very graphic. It was very violent and just like, it sounds weird because it's like very aggressive, and the characters are like very aggressive. So it's about a man named Leo, and one morning he wakes up with his girlfriend Cassie. They're in high school or like had just graduated high school. He wakes up and he takes a cup of water and it tastes disgusting. So he goes outside to his well and finds out that there's a body in it of a woman that had gone missing. Obviously, he's a prime suspect, but they don't have enough evidence to take him in. But, of course, the town's opinion, this is a small town, their opinion of him has changed. He ends up, a little while later, drunk driving and accidentally, I don't know, ends up getting in an accident, and the mother of his girlfriend, Cassie, dies in the accident. He goes to prison for 9 years. He's just getting out, and around the same time he's getting out, another young girl goes missing, and so it's sort of how he's gonna defend his honor and such, especially with the first case of the missing woman that was found in the well never really being resolved. No one was tried for the crime or anything. I don't know. This was not really a thriller or a horror. It was just like very violent, dark stuff. So much rape. So much talk of murdering people. Like, it's no big deal to just casually be like, I will kill him. That's problematic. Like, I mean, not problematic as in the sense of like, I'm offended, but in the sense that like, if you are that quick to be like, I will murder someone, that is an issue. This was well written, but just not the book for me. I don't think I would recommend it to most people, but if you have a different opinion, I would love to hear it. If you have read this and liked it, I'm not gonna say anything else about it. If you are curious about it though, it is on Kindle Unlimited, so if that is something that interests you, you wanna see if I'm just being a big old baby about it, check it out, let me know. So overall, I had a pretty good reading month. In September, I read 16 books, and I don't feel like counting up all of the different stars, so I read 16 books, yay! I think overall I liked most of them. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I would love it if you would subscribe, and let me know in the comments what your favorite book of September was. And with that, I will